Hi, it's Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics. I have a fun project for you today. Quilt-As-You-Go placemats using the June Tailor pre-printed batting. This is a new project for me. It's a new product for me. I discovered this at Quilt Market and it has been so much fun ever since making projects. There's other projects we'll be bringing to you as well. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, just do it now. We have so many fun projects coming your way. And of course, we have a nice array of videos already recorded that you can be watching at your convenience 24 hours a day and be able to make something fun for yourself or for a gift. And I love to decorate for Christmas. So of course, when we got this pre-printed batting, I said, let's do something fun for Christmas because I love to have a beautiful table set for our family dinner on Christmas Eve. And this is the Swell Christmas Collection by Moda Fabrics. It's a retro collection. I really love everything about it, the retro Santa, just the colors really spoke to me, and I think the placemats came out adorable. What I love about Quilt-As-You-Go is when you don't have a Quilt-As-You-Go project, at the end you're contemplating quilting it yourself. I'm not as accomplished with long arm quilting or quilting on my sewing machine as I'd like to be, so it's not necessarily one of my best contributions to a project. So at the end of this, there is none of that. It's already quilted for you because you quilt as you go. So when you buy the, this is called the Jakarta Placemat. That's the style of this particular one, and June Tailor has other ones as well. Again, coming your way in other videos. When you open up your package of the pre-printed batting, this is what it looks like. It's batting as you would expect to see, but there's lines and there's numbers on it, so it's telling you how to work through the project and where to place your strips. The instructions included with the batting are wonderful, right? Spot on. We really love that. Now, each of that makes 6 placemats. So I think that's a great, that's a nice amount. If you have a bigger, of course, table, just buy multiple sets of that. Now, we have kits available using the Swell Christmas, but you might have your own favorite Christmas collection and you want to just get the batting. That will be available as well. So when you get your batting, first thing is, of course, when you unfold that, there's going to be some wrinkles here and there. They're very clear in the instructions to not iron the batting ahead of time. It can cause shrinkage, it can cause a little bit of warping, and we want to make sure we're not doing that. So don't be tempted to do that. But again, they'll remind you of that in the instructions. The first thing we did is we cut apart our 6 placemats and we left about a 1-inch perimeter around the placemat grid itself. So I will put that aside, and that's what they look like cut out. You've got your placemat itself, and then we have our 1-inch perimeter. So that's how we recommend you go ahead and cut those out. And of course, the pattern is letting you know, the included instructions, I should say, are letting you know what length to cut your strips in order to achieve the placemat. Because of course, these pieces here are not going to be cut, they're going to be much shorter than your longer strips. So you'll want to determine where to put each fabric because that'll determine how long you're going to be cutting those strips. So let's bring out our the first stage of this. We cut our fabrics per the included instructions with a pre-printed batting. Those are ready to go and off to the side. We chose our backing fabric. I thought that was adorable, little Santas on red, and we used a spray basting so that we didn't have to worry about pinning all this together. And we just smoothed everything out. That really helped to relax some of the wrinkles that were in the batting, and now it's mostly flat. And in the end, you can obviously iron in the very end, but just don't iron up front. So let me just take these strips off and show you how this works. It's so fun. I know, I'm just telling my family right now out there, you're all going to be getting some placemats because I just really thought this was fun and it's so useful. Everyone loves to decorate their table with pretty placemats. So as you can see, hopefully the overhead camera can see, this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's one of the first things I want to mention is you start in the middle and you kind of hop left and right of that. You don't just start here and move in a direction or start here and move in a direction. You start here and you're kind of hopping back and forth. Again, the instructions mention that, but for number 1, it looks like that's my main strip right here. Let's look at that. Let me turn that so it's in my orientation. My first strip here is this one. Now I'm just going to make sure that my strip fills this space, and of course some of that's going to be beyond that, but you need to at least fill that space, and a little more is fine. Now one thing I want to mention right away before we even take this to the sewing machine is you can see this fabric does bleed on to this other lane, I would call it, but when you're actually sewing these strips down to the batting and the backing, you want to make sure your stitching begins at this line and ends at this line and doesn't bleed into that other lane. It would seem benign, but in this case it's not. It's very important that you begin on that junction and you end on that and you don't go beyond. So this is piece number 1 right here. That's just going to lay there, and you're making sure your corners are filling here to here. Piece number 2 looks like that's going to be this one here because it says number 2. You would think that you would just lay that like that, wouldn't you? That's my natural instinct, is to just lay them, because that's how we do in quilting, right? We match those sides up and then we do our 1/4 inch seam. The problem is, look what happened, we didn't fill. You'll have to stagger that, so here's what I recommend. We know we're trying to fill this space, so go ahead and lay your piece where it belongs so you know you have absolutely filled that space. Now, just simply flip that over without shifting it, and let's put some pins on there, and we're going to take that to a sewing machine, and it's a standard 1/4 inch seam allowance, just like you have done. And like I mentioned before, I'm not going to start here. I'm going to start at that line, sewing a 1/4 inch, and I'm going to stop right at that line, not bleeding into the other section. So let's go over to that. I chose a thread, I think we've got a red in here, because I wanted that to coordinate actually with the back of the project. That's really the only thread that we'll be showing. So let's take that over, sewing machine, and sew a 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to make sure, let me lower my pressing foot, presser foot, and I'm just going to adjust that. So I think I'm starting at that line. Feel like I'm there, and you don't need to do a back stitch, you can just keep going. Now I'm going to stop where I believe that line is. Let me go needle down on that real quick. Beautiful. Okay. So just like before, they're recommending to not iron. Now my natural instinct every time I have a seam is I want to press it. But what we have instead, we're going to still press to the outside. This is the clover. This is a press. And I love how I can get a seam and get everything nice and smooth without heat. This is one of those instances where this is the exact tool you want because it gets the job done without applying the heat and potentially distorting that. Now, that's piece number 2. So looking at our sample, this was our piece 1, piece 2. Number 3 is right here, and that's this cute little, I love this. I love plaid anyway, and when it's on point like that, that's even better. So just like before, remember how we're not gonna just line that up side by side because we're trying to fill that rectangle. So let's go ahead and fill the rectangle till we know we've got that space. Then we'll go ahead and go right sides together. And let's just sew one more strip real quick. You get the idea of how this is really so straightforward. Again, the instructions are fantastic. They really do set you up for success. And we were able to get all 6 placemats sewn and bound. It's a full day project, but I think that's a fun day spent doing a lot of just fun sewing where you know you're going to be successful. I love that. So let's go back again. We're going to make sure we start with that blue line and we're not going to go beyond that. So let's lower that, and if we need to adjust our starting point just a touch, I'm too far back, so let me just scoot that about right there. I don't need a back stitch. I'm just going to start sewing. right. I love these pins. I love this pin cushion. They're so, when I first started quilting, I thought, whatever, pins are pins. I had the little strawberry, you know, I think we all did, pin cushion. I'd spill my pins now and again, and I'd, you know, pick them up as best I could. I love how this just is magnetic and it lines them all up. This is, and then you have a little scoop here that you can easily grab that versus kind of just digging. So very well thought out magnetic pin cushion, and those are the clover pins. So again, we'll use our roll and press to the outside. I'm going to go ahead and get that seam nice and flat. And you will just continue in the same fashion, going back and forth. Piece number 4 is here, so you're just going to look and see what that is. Let me turn that around so I have the same sight picture. You'll put your pieces here, there, and you're going to continue here and there and there. Now, let me take it to the stage where we have this main portion done. Let me just fast forward to that real quick. And I'll show you what's next. So you have, this is what the picture looks like. So keep in mind, this is the goal, this is where we're going, and this is what we have. Now it's pretty obvious that this amount that's hanging over needs to go somewhere else, because I need to be able to put this on and I need to be able to see the line. Right now I can't see where to sew. This is why it was so important that we never sewed over that line, because what we're going to do right now is we're going to basically roll back that batting. Let me move these out of the way. So we'll roll this back. I'm even going to kind of roll this on the side like this. So you see my blue line right here? I want to see that overhead camera. I'm going to roll that back till I can see that blue line. There it is. Everything is smoothed out. I'm going to bring my ruler, and I might even grab my bigger ruler real quick, because I want to get this in one fell swoop. Now be careful that that ruler is just slightly over the batting, just slightly beyond that. The last thing you want is to cut the batting. It'll ruin the project. So I can see if I'm a little too tight, as I bring my rotary cutter toward it, I could cut that. So I'm going to go just slightly beyond that. And I'm almost pressing this way, flared away, so that I don't catch that batting. Okay. And you will repeat the same thing, of course, on the other side, and you'll do the same thing here. You can actually, you don't even have to do this part now, because in the end you'll square that up. You get the idea. I can now see lane 10, and you'll repeat the same thing right here, so that you can then put your sides on in the same way that you did, and then you'll put this on in the same way you did before. So let's fast forward to that as well. So we were able to clean up, we put our sides on. Now we're going to come back with our red strips, which are right here. Put those on, and now you've already got your line up here. You see your blue line. So if I'm lining up on my blue from here to here, I can see my blue line here. I see my blue line there. I know I'm lined up. Let's just double check it one more time. Mama said, measure twice, cut once. Okay, so I'm going to establish that, and then I would probably put that right alongside here, because I want that to be straight. I want everything to be parallel. And you're just going to square up your project at this point, cleaning up those edges all the way around. And then here, and we can see that line. This one's easy. It's going to just be right along that fabric right there. And then, of course, you'll just prepare your binding as you normally would. You're used to doing that. And we bound those just like you'd bind any quilt you've ever bound in the past. So I'm going to square this one up. Okay, and you're ready to put binding on your placemat. So if you've never done a Quilt-As-You-Go project, I can't tell you how much fun this is. And we have more June Tailor projects coming up using the pre-printed batting. So be sure to pick up your kit or your pre-printed batting from Shabby Fabrics.